Senate Minority Leader Koko Pimentel. Senator Pimentel, good morning to you.
Good morning, Karen, and to all of our viewers. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat.
All right, let's start with the budget first before we go to the latest in Marikina. Is this budget unconstitutional? The DPWH budget is higher than that of the DepEd. Did this budget violate an article of the Constitution?
I will start first with three possible constitutional issues. These are different from the policy or wisdom issues which we can raise also against the budget. So, constitutional issue number one, infrastructure getting more budget priority than education. Yeah, kasi under our constitution, there is an entry there that education shall enjoy the highest budgetary priority. So, di ba, if you understand the simple words used in the constitution, well, lampas na kasi 1 trillion pesos ang budget for infrastructure and around 900 billion pesos is the budget for the education institutions of the country. So, number one yun. Number two, the unprogrammed appropriations level in the Bicameral Conference Committee report is now higher than the original unprogrammed appropriations level in the President's budget proposal. It is higher by 373 billion pesos. So, there are two constitutional provisions affected here. Ang sabi kasi sa constitutional provisions, the principal one is that the appropriations recommended by the President cannot be increased by Congress. So, yun ang reading ko doon. That includes unprogrammed appropriations. The total level of unprogrammed appropriations must not be exceeded by Congress when it makes the budget law. Kasi ang ginamit ng Constitution is the word appropriations. So that means that those are programmed appropriations as well as unprogrammed appropriations. And then the third possible constitutional issue here is that this bill also was covered by a presidential certification of urgency. This is a budget bill. This is a yearly or an annual ritual. Congress does this all the time. Meron talagang budget calendar or a budget season. So this is a predictable phase in the legislative process or predictable period. So what's the point? What is the point in issuing this presidential certification of urgency? What is the emergency staring us right into our faces? Wala naman eh. Oh.
Growing your dream business and selling products that are loved doesn't have to be a struggle with the right tool like Odoo. Integration of your end-to-end business process makes boring labor as easy as... And managing tasks among your team becomes as simple as drag and drop. Let the right tool compile the right data for you to make smart growth strategies with confidence so that you can focus on what...
Okay, so could these issues be brought before the Supreme Court?
Yes. Yes, as a matter of fact, exceeding the level of the unprogrammed appropriations is already an issue in one case before the Supreme Court, but it is about the 2024 budget ngayong taon. So therefore, this the fact that the 2025 proposed budget also repeats the practice made by Congress in the 2024 budget, this can now be the subject matter of number one, a supplemental petition in the existing case, or an entirely new case.
Okay, so there are sectors calling on the president, including former Senator Ping Lacson, asking the president to veto the cut in the education budget, right? So if the talk to us about what you believe the president should do to make this budget right.
Well, siguro start with the budget on the infra. Because
Oo.
that is the one
Bawasan
which,
yun.
bawasan yun kasi yun yung naglumobo eh. Yun yung nag-bloat sa BICAM eh. Tapos kung mabawasan mo pa yun, then you can now make it constitutional in the sense of the first objection natin kanina, that infra budget is more than education budget. So that's step one. But I do not know yung pag-zero kasi, let's say, okay, zinero si PhilHealth.
Yeah.
You cannot veto a line na zero na kasi the president cannot change the budget by
Yes.
by
And
adding
you cannot,
a
you cannot
number
move.
to,
Oo.
yes, by moving the amounts, bawasan
Yes.
ko
Yeah.
that is yun na nga yung that is the job of the Congress. Kami yung by through amendments ginagawa namin yon. So now the PhilHealth subsidy is zero. Education, I think si DepEd suffered, education sector suffered cuts.
Yeah.
What I remember is a DepEd around 10 billion pesos.
12. DepEd
12. Okay.
had a 12 billion cut.
Let's say 10 to 12 billion because just to have a margin for error. Ang CHED also
30.
30, no? 30?
30 billion.
30, 27 to 30. Lagyan na natin, my memory says 27.
Yeah.
So, test na din. Meron din. So, kung makita natin. So, but these are cuts. Binabaan.
Yeah.
So, okay. The president will not veto those line items for the education institutions. But, in the budget execution, he can supplement them siguro. He can supplement them from, if there are now savings from other projects, or sa contingency fund niya ng entire government pwede. But maliit yung contingency fund eh. Yung cut sa DepEd, yun na yung contingency fund eh. Mga 10 to 13 billion pesos yan eh.
Yeah. So technically, to save this budget from being unconstitutional, all the president can do is cut. But in the end, PhilHealth is at a loss, DepEd is at a loss, agencies that needed it lost, right? So the big issue is, why was this allowed in the BICAM? Who was in the BICAM?
Ang BICAM kasi, ang nangyari sa BICAM, although the Senate President sent a larger delegation this time, actually nothing improved in the process. Because the BICAM met initially to open the BICAM and then met second time to close the BICAM. Ginagawa rin naman dati yun eh. Ginagawa yung mga two steps na yun because those are the two formalities that you need to do. Open, then close a certain meeting. It is in the in-between which did not improve. Before both houses used to create a small committee. Small committee, ang nangyari, chairman, dalawang tao. Ngayon, hindi ginawa. Ginawa lang technical working group. Pero anong improvement? Wala. The improvement should have been in the flow of information.
Yeah.
Wala namang flow of information na isi-zero si PhilHealth, isi-zero si PhilHealth. Ano bang boto ng Senate panel? Do we agree or not agree? Bawasan si DepEd ng 10 to 12 billion ha. Anong position ng Senate panel? Agree or disagree? That is the real way of conducting a BICAM. Panels yan, nag-uusap, nag-exchange ng ideas, ng proposals, and then panels.
Okay, so what is even appalling in this particular budget is, number one, it's already a 10% increase from last year, right? So this is a 10% increase from last year. DPWH hits more than 1 trillion. For the record, the DPWH budget now is at, I think, 1.113 trillion. It's 1.113 trillion. And essentially, that would mean, other than national projects, you have lawmakers having pet projects that essentially go into the DPWH. But here's another one, AKAP. Itong ayuda sa kulang sa pera. Congress getting 26 billion, and suddenly the Senate gets 5 billion.
Walang,
That?
there was no explanation to us about that kind of division. But at any rate, even if I were to be offered AKAP, I am against that program. I will not accept it. Okay. Number one, yung AKAP na yan did not find itself in the Senate committee report version. Wala yan eh. So sinuportahan namin kasi wala yan. That means we are not wasting, I think 36 to 39 billion ata yung original dyan, Karen.
Yeah. Congress wanted, I think,
39?
39
39 billion pesos
Oo.
yan. So, kasi sa amin sa Senate, or hindi lahat sa amin, but maybe karamihan sa amin, o marami sa amin sa Senate, sabi namin, that is not a priority program. Because AKAP, the justification for AKAP is they want to help those who are already employed but feel that their income or earnings are not sufficient to support their families. Okay. However, meron tayong existing program for the poorest of the poor, yung
Yes.
tinatawag na 4Ps program.
Yes.
Mas matanda na ito na programa, mas documented na ito na programa. Yet, admittedly, aminado, kahit DSWD o kahit sinong politiko, aminado na merong waiting list dyan. So there are families on the waiting list to receive benefits from the 4Ps program meant for the poorest of the poor. And then we invent a new program for those employed at the minimum wage level who feel that their income is not enough for them. So, okay yun na pagtugunan ng pansin kung tapos ka na sa poorest of the poor. Hindi. You cannot fund the project or the program for the poorest of the poor. And then you want to skip them, skip mo na, talunan na natin, dito na tayo sa mga naka-empleyo. So there is something fundamentally wrong with that program.
And the level of discretion with AKAP. So I've done a bit of research. The recipients of AKAP, for example, you have some cities na pinaparaffle ang AKAP nila. Ang binibigay 3,000 to 5,000. Yung ibang cities naman humingi ng voters ID para sa AKAP nila. So yung ibang cities nagbibigay first tranche 5, other tranche 5. The problem with AKAP is how can we tell that if you divide it equally, if it's 80 million for a congressman, that or 100 million, no, or 120 if it's a congressman in the majority, that all of it went to constituents. It's so easy to give away 20 and keep the 100. Or my question, if we do the math, each senator will get 200 million for AKAP. What will the senators do with it? Who will they give it to?
Now that's why I'm really against the program kasi number one, it's not justified. The concept is not that clear. The mechanics are not yet well thought out or well established. Unlike the 4Ps, luma na programa, klarong-klaro sa poorest of the poor, siniseminar sila, meron silang may conditionality, may condition eh. They have to do some positive acts before they can receive benefits. So ganun po yun kasi kung yung AKAP ay parang bigay talaga ng cash, meron ng counterpart yan eh. Yan yung tinatawag na AIX. And the justification sa AIX is that the individual, although employed, although not really the poorest of the poor, I am in trouble now because I have a crisis. I am encountering a crisis in my life. O tinamaan ako ng sakit, tinamaan ng sakit yung aking member of the family. So, yun na yun.
The problem is you have a legislator giving away the cash. For me,
that's an additional. That's an additional problem.
Yes.
Yes, and then
With the elections coming up, it's max of vote buying.
bawal yan. Di, bawal yan, bawal yan. Kahit sa AX bawal yan, kahit sa 4-piece bawal yan. Kailangan it should be the government, the state. It is the state through the government agency which is giving the help to the people. Bawal po yung ipadaan sa kamay ng politiko para yun ang maalala ng taong bayan. Bawal po yan. Pero in the first place,
Ganun ang akap, Sen, ha?
yes,
Ganun
yes,
ang
pero
akap ngayon.
kahit ito nga, Karen, kahit hindi ganun ang akap, mali pa rin si akap. Kasi kahit hindi siya ganun, kasi nga kahit ipadaan mo sa DSWD yan, meron na nga 2 programs ang DSWD.
Oo.
For the poorest of the poor, 4-piece tayo. Okay. Doon sa mga nahihirapan ngayon sa buhay kasi tinamaan ng krisis, tinamaan ka ng problema, pwede kang tumakbo sa DSWD under the AIX. So yun na yun. If they really want, if there is an extra 30 billion pesos or 26 billion pesos extra, mamili, dapat ang way of thinking natin, ilagay ba natin si 26 billion na nakita nating pwede pala nating gastusin sa poorest of the poor program para yung waiting list ay matulungan na, masama na?
Oo.
Or idagdag yun sa AIX na tuwing may tatamaan ng krisis sa buhay or kahirapan sa buhay, meron tayong pundong itutulong.
Oo.
In both programs, hindi politiko ang magbibigay. So these are more established programs, tested na, safer pa.
Okay. Now, do you think the president should veto akap?
Yes. He should veto AKAP. Di nakasave tayo kaagad ng 26.
31. 31 billion.
I think
26 plus 5 of the Senate. 31
No, what I understand is 26 kasi 21 plus 5 yun. So we
No.
will just check.
26 Congress, 5 billion Senate, 31 total.
So you see, kita mo kahit yung AKAP hindi well explained to us kasi number one, against kami dyan, and even if offered, tatanggihan po namin yan. And the best na rin ata ipakita na ng presidente na he also believes in a well planned or well targeted assistance programs. Number one, poorest of the poor and those who are hit by temporary crisis in life.
Okay, so to end this, the president, of course, would want to pass the budget on time. But we've seen, historically speaking, we've seen sitting presidents veto items, right? GMA has done it, Pinoy has done it. They vetoed items from the budget. They've done it, okay? Because this budget is possibly unconstitutional in its face, right? With unprogrammed funds being higher than what it should be, the DPWH budget higher than the DepEd. So what happens if the president signs an unconstitutional budget?
Well, this is a free country, Karen. That's why citizens, involved citizens, vigilant citizens should now can go to the Supreme Court to question the constitutionality of this particular budget. Ako, just a quick analysis of the budget, I can already give you 3 grounds to question the constitutionality. That's
Yeah.
earlier part of our show.
What was your third? The first is DPWH exceeding DepEd. Number 2,
Education.
unprogrammed funds exceeding the allowed amount,
Correct.
right?
Number is the unnecessary presidential certification of urgency.
Okay, yeah.
Kasi yung those 3 grounds, we can find constitutional provisions to support our argument that these provisions have been violated.
Yeah.
Okay.
But,
Yung
but
iba,
what will this mean to President Marcos Jr.'s administration? If he signs a budget that's unconstitutional, what will it cost him? Well,
hindi pa tayo sure, Karen, that that the Supreme Court will side with our arguments, 'di ba? But my point is the system in our country, all laws, if the laws passed by Congress affect you in a way na you believe which is not constitutional, you can question.
Yeah.
So we have three grounds to question. Ang problema, Karen, these have been raised before. And yun na nga, number one, I think there has been a budget in the past na there was also a contention that some other budget exceeded the education budget. I think infra rin yata yun, but I forgot the year na. And I do not think that budget law was declared unconstitutional. Then
But
number
did
two,
anyone go before the Supreme Court?
yes, because my staff tell me there has been a case. So that means this must have been a Supreme Court ruling. But syempre, Karen, iba-ibang facts noon eh. Iba ang facts noon, iba facts ngayon. So you can always revive or reuse the argument, okay? And then the unprogrammed level, a programmed appropriations level, this is pending. Ito,
Yeah.
kaso ko yan, pending ngayon yan. So we can now show to the court na see the practice is being repeated year after year after year, so you better decide on the case so that there will be now a clear ruling and a clear guidance to Congress.
And how do we make the Supreme Court, frankly, act faster? Because to a degree, during the time of the late President Noynoy Aquino, when a case against PDAF, remember, was brought before the Supreme Court, they acted immediately, and that was the time during the administration of Pinoy. Remember, it was a case against Butch Abad on the PDAF. So why isn't this Supreme Court moving?
Because there are different facts involved. Of course, there's different issue din. Siguro rini-review pa nila ano ang history ng budget process natin. But definitely, since it has been repeated, actually ganito yung Karen eh. The reason why I filed that case concerning the 2024 budget is because I saw that in the 2023, 2022, and 2021 budgets, Congress was already exceeding the unprogrammed appropriations level.
Yeah.
So nakita ko, teka muna, I mean, ginagawa na nating institutionalized practice ito. So it's time to bring this up to the referee, to the Supreme Court, so that our attention can be called and we can be better educated. Is this a constitutional thing to do or not? Ngayon, naulit-ulit. So,
Okay. Now there was
the attention of the Supreme Court.
there was a time when the government ran on a reenacted budget.
Correct.
You can correct my memory here, but that was the time of former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. Tama, no?
Tama.
Reenacted budget. Hindi niya
Correct.
pinirmahan. Hindi ba niya pinirmahan? Hindi natapos?
Hindi nagka-agree
Oo, she did not agree. Kumbaga si former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo stood her ground, refused to sign the budget. So the next year, they operated on the old budget. I want to ask you, should the President consider that?
My memory about the reenacted budget during the time of President GMA is that the Senate and the House could not agree on the budget. Could not agree, and then lumampas na ng December 31 of the current year, pumunta na sa new year. Therefore there was no law to govern the budget for that new calendar year.
I
So,
see.
under our constitution, na-anticipate ng constitution natin yan. Ang sabi niya, if this happens, we operate under a reenacted budget. You continue operating under the previous year's budget. Ganun po yun.
So what you're saying is the President, what if he refuses to sign this budget? Can he do that?
Yeah, iba yun. No, yeah. But, pero he will not do it under formal circumstances. He should Hindi yung may gathering na and then he will not sign. He will have to communicate that something is wrong with this budget. Number one, he can send the enrolled bill back to Congress, or even before the printing
Yeah.
of the enrolled bill, he should use his bridge. May bridge kasi yan eh.
Because
Ang Office of the President, meron siyang PLLO, yan ang bridge niya sa legislature. So, dapat gamitin niya yun kung ano man yung mensahe
Oo.
niya sa amin.
Because politically speaking, if you were President Marcos Jr., this is a budget that makes you unpopular. Tinanggalan mo DepEd, tinanggalan mo CHED, tinanggalan mo PhilHealth, tinanggalan mo social services. Tapos ang nagkapera, DPWH, yung mga congressman, senador, sila nagkapera. If you were the president, why is this budget a plus for you? For your leadership?
But the point is, meron na siyang mechanism from the start. There is a PLLO. From the very start, meron ng bridge eh. So, if he wanted something done, or he wanted to influence more the budget process, he could have done so through the PLLO.
So what you're saying is the president approves of this budget.
The president knows everything about this budget. Kasi his office or the executive branch would be present at all stages in the budget process.